Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. It's 5:30 a.m. here, but after a long contemplation about what direction I want my channel to go, I decided to focus on consciousness. So in this video, we are going to talk about a little bit about my background and why I became interested in the topic of consciousness and the life event that led me to make this decision to dedicate my life to this topic. And we'll take it from there. And in the coming future, I will be uploading a lot more videos covering lots of topics and world events, as well as latest news about science, and what's really is happening around the world, which is also one of my interests. So since childhood, I always had a inquiring mind. I was thinking about who we are, why are things the way they are, what is this life, why do we wake up having to go to a school and come back home. As a child, I always had these questions. For example, why are objects the way they are? How did these ended up being this way? Why do we look like this? And at some point, living in society, these questions were valid for me, but it felt as if the society is trying to tell me that these questions are stupid, or made me feel that I am thinking differently, and that shouldn't be that way. Even like in mathematics, I'm talking about like secondary school, I always came up with my own solutions. I never memorized any formula because I've always been interested in understanding the fundamental of things. Where do they come from for myself? I could not stand being told what to do or copy. Even at the time of exam, I wouldn't memorize any formula. If I would just memorize the main formula or learn it, and then derive all the other formulas from it. You know, in physics, when you have one main concept, and out of that main formula, you have many different arrangements of that formula. I would never memorize any of those arrangements. I would just know the main concept and know the tools and techniques, and I would just derive my own formula based on the question. So, and the references that my school teachers have written for me, having come from Iran, was consistent. Even at college here, my references say the same thing. I never followed the mainstream. I never was a copy. I've always been original, even in mathematics. So creativity even existed in my math. But this curiosity really did not end, and it got much worse. So at college, I did pretty well. So again, going back to my the timeline of things. So I grew up in Iran, and I was interested in maths, physics, science, but at the same time, I was interested in poetry and knowing Persian literature, which resonated with me a lot because it was just beautiful. How can a human being produce such a masterpiece without without any inconsistency in the meaning of the verses? But at the same time, like I said, in Iran, it's mandatory that everyone learns about Islam and the Quran and the history of this religion. And I didn't have problem at all with Islam or any other religion or any other prophets. And my family always was into meaning. What is the meaning of things rather than the basis upon which we build our meaning. So I see religion as a base that we are inheriting. So if I'm born in Iran, I have inherited Islam. If I'm born in, let's say, the West, the religion is Christianity. So you are inheriting that religion, but it's now down to you. It's now down to you what you do with it and what path of meaning do you pursue. That's how I view things. So at the age of 17, due to a crisis in my country, I had to leave and seek refuge. And here I am right now in United Kingdom as a British citizen. So initially I went to college. I wanted to do medicine. So they told me that for medicine, you need to have studied science subjects at college here. But for engineering or like sciences or any other bachelor's degree, but not medicine, my Iranian diploma was more than enough. I had good grades. I was one of the top students in Iran. So I didn't have a problem with doing anything else. But for medicine, I was told to start college. And I tell you a funny story here. In college in Scotland, I was living back then in 2010. They told me that based on our experience, because you're new to this country, your English is not yet perfect. We think that you have to start from the intermediate level, which is the English equivalent to O levels. You're talking about 15, 16-year-olds. But I was 17 and a half. So, and I had already done high school. I knew maths and physics, and these subjects are given much more weight in Iran. So in Edinburgh, they told me, oh no, you cannot go to doing Scottish hires and advanced hires. You have to start from doing intermediate levels. And I said, no chance. There's no chance you're gonna put me next to younger school children talking about basic mathematics. I can't see myself doing that. It's just I'm overqualified for that. But they didn't listen to me, and my English was still a little bit broken. So I don't blame them. But I didn't give up. So what I did, I applied to every single college in every city in Scotland. And Glasgow came, a college in Glasgow called the Glasgow Clyde College. Back then it was called Langside College. They came and they told me, okay, we will give you a chance. You just have to pass our November exam, and if that was the case, you get to continue. And I said fine. So came November exam, and all the subjects, I did 5 science subjects, so I ended up scoring a full mark on the physics, like 100%. And the physics teacher said, okay, it looks like we have to treat you differently now. And he actually went and spoke to the biology and English teacher, and they said, I don't care. You have to keep Hanif here. For whatever reason, you have to keep him here. And his name was Paul Ferguson. I never forget that teacher. And that moment gave me that event, me witnessing that a teacher is sticking up for me, it made me feel at home. It made me feel valuable. It made me feel valued. Sorry. And I just gained lots of energy to do well in college. And despite my lack of proficiency in English, I ended up getting an A across the board. So, and my grades were like over 90%, like really, really good grades. Um, and then the same physics teacher, he kept like nominating me for placements. So in summer 2012, I went to Nuffield research placement at Edinburgh University, and it was a great experience. I mean, that's how I remember Scotland. Scotland for me is my second home after Iran, and now I'm in England, which is my third home. But Scotland is so special for me. I mean, the people, the deep culture, the friendliness, and the authenticity of its people is unmatched. And I love the accent, and I never had problem understanding the accent, because people with that accent come across as so friendly, and they're not afraid to be their authentic self. And there is no mask as such in Scotland. I mean, people are genuine. Let's put it that way. So, after my Scottish hires, I did advanced hires, and in advanced hires, I got an A in maths, but a B in chemistry and biology. And the reason being was my family circumstances. My family needed lots of help coming from Iran. They also were in the process of leaving the country due to the massive crisis that happened to my family. So I had to, every day I had to do something for my family. Back then it was like a very transitional moment. So I didn't have time to fully write my dissertation. I think it was lab report, yeah. But mathematics, again, I was one of the few to get an A. And yeah, with those grades, I could do medicine. And so I kept applying for medicine. And why am I thinking too much? Yeah. So I applied for medicine, but at the same time, I was working as a care assistant in Edinburgh. And I ended up getting interviews for medical schools in the UK. Keele University gave me an interview. They they scored me really high on motivation, but a bit low on the social awareness. So I was still new to the country. So one of my friends said, you know what? You need to go to university and do a different subject, whatever it is, whatever you feel like. So I chose biomedical science. But I did biomedical science with the intention to transition to medicine. So I chose back then Queen Mary University in London. They had this scheme where if you're a top 10% of the cohort, you get a chance of an interview. And if you pass the interview, you get to continue medicine. I believe it was advertised as entering the second year, but later not the second year, but entering the graduate accelerated program, graduate entry medicine. But later I discovered that that wasn't happening anymore, and it was just a 5-year course, which doesn't have the same amount of funding. So me knowing that, I realized, okay, I could go back to be with my family in Manchester. My mom was settled in Manchester back then in 2016. So I begged the University of Manchester to please accept a transfer from me. So I yeah, it was after the deadline, but they were so kind to accept my request. So I spent my second and third year in Manchester. However, more and more challenges came up during my time at Manchester, but I ended up with good grades, and yeah, Manchester was a good experience, a really good university. Actually, I was there like 2 days ago. Uh, and a week before that, I was invited as one of the alumni to talk to the graduates. It was a really good experience. So, what else? Yeah. Um, so after Manchester, I still wanted to do medicine. So what I did, I made a realization that, okay, the UK medical schools aren't for me because, first of all, I can't afford to uh, pay the fees and maintain my life at the same time, and living in different cities, having to pay a ridiculous amount for rent and maintenance. And, as a second degree, you don't get a maintenance loan. You just get, just a tuition fee loan. So that was really challenging for me. So I decided to apply for European universities, and I ended up going to Ukraine in 2019. When I graduated from Manchester, straight away, I went to Ukraine as an international student, and I did medicine there as a graduate. And when COVID happened, my study was interrupted, and then the war happened in Ukraine. The reason I chose Ukraine, it was because Ukraine chose me. I didn't choose Ukraine. And it was a surreal experience. I was really blown away by the hospitality and the culture, the really deep culture in Ukraine. It really felt as if I time traveled back into the 90s, and everything, the society, the music, the people that you meet, felt as if I'm living in the 90s, which I think it was much more fun compared to how we are feeling as a people right now. So I really enjoyed my time in Ukraine. Never mind the COVID and the war, but the people there are amazing. The teachers were really knowledgeable and really open-minded. And later in my videos, I will talk about my experience about doing research in Ukraine about the topic of consciousness. So, what else? Yeah. So when the war happens in Ukraine, I was in my final year of the medical school. So in there, what I had to do, I had to leave with the notice of the British government. So the British government sent us an email saying, we advise all British citizens, nationals, to evacuate the country ASAP. So I just, with some of my friends, I got on a plane and came back, and I listened to that advice. But a small percentage of my classmates didn't listen to it. Most of my classmates were British as well, coming to the same university. They didn't listen. They thought that, okay, they always say there's going to be a war, but there never is. So they had to walk through the Polish borders, and it was horrific for them. I really felt sorry that they had to go through that process. So fast forward, I started a campaign trying to advocate for this Ukrainian medical students, and I ended up forming a 2,000 members Telegram group chat with basically somebody from every single medical school in the entire Ukraine was in that group chat. And this was done in a collaboration with my classmates, of course. And we got together thinking, okay, we're all in the same boat. We're all thinking the same. We're all in trouble. Our education is disrupted. Let's do something for everyone. So we started contacting universities, councils, MPs, asking them to provide some work placement or continued education pathways for these students. And it was not effective. So we even got to writing letters to a head of education and head of health or whatever at the NHS, and the Council of Universities, but we didn't get anywhere. So, but what we did find was a large group of doctors who were willing to cover the lost hours of our course. So, not only our course, but the people in lower years. So yeah, we formed these online virtual classes for medical students, and the lecturers that we're teaching were from top universities in the UK, like Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College, Manchester, St. George's, and so on. University of Dundee, and so on and so forth. So we had like about 100 of these lecturers. I know, it's crazy, right? They were all volunteering, like an hour or two of their time a week, dedicated to giving lectures on, let's say, x-rays or anatomy or pathology or physiology, pharmacology, and even OSCEs. So they really went out of their way to make sure we get access to sources and teachings. Queen Mary University gave us access to their online video inventory of all of their lectures for medicine. I still have access to that. So me and my friends were responsible for sharing this information to those thousands of students, and it was really fulfilling. We weren't only a source for education; we were also a source for hope, reconciliation, networking. Some of them even found bodies to pair up to come here to find a new home because their home was wrecked in Ukraine, for example. And yeah, their mental health improved for those that we were in touch with, at least. And yeah, I felt good about doing that. So I spent about 6 months with my friends, networking and helping and contacting. We were like a source of contact for everyone. What else? Yeah, but for some reason we couldn't find any sort of tailor-made scheme to help our colleagues and lower year students. So they're all now doing different things, or they either started medicine from scratch, or those who were in later years, they continued to graduate like me. So I graduated online. I did my OSCEs online. And as you know, during COVID, even UK universities had to do the same. So I even went to Royal College of Physicians. I met the president in person, and I told her, look, it was Dr. Gerada. I told her, look, these people need help. There are hundreds of them, and they're all medical students, and they have this passion for becoming, a doctor, and they invested a lot in their path. What can we do for them? She also went out of her way, wrote to lots of the CEO of GMC, General Medical Council. Even I wrote to them. They replied, and they tried to help, but it looked like everyone had to, start from scratch again, and there wasn't a unique path made for us British nationals, but we're not complaining, we're safe, and that's the main thing. So after a while, I realized, okay, this advocacy is no longer helpful. It did what it did at the time, providing the network and teaching and, the mental health support. Yeah, because, when all your dreams and passions are smashed into pieces, you think that you can never go back to that country to study. That is a huge burden. So, but I'm really happy and proud for having advocated. Sorry. So fast forward, I decided that, okay, medicine is not happening for me. I decided to go and do research. So I applied for a course called Experimental Neuroscience, which touches base with consciousness. I thought, okay, that sounds good. That means I can find a good network of professors to talk about my passions about the subject of consciousness, and they will probably support me and like give me some chance to express myself and show me the path forward. With that hope, I was accepted to at Imperial College. Professor Gentleman, the head of department now, he's a great human being, and his colleague, Dr. Sandroni, they were amazing. They wrote my CV. They wrote my, they read, sorry, not wrote. They read my personal statement, and they were really impressed, and they even gave me a place when I still was waiting for my medical degree to come through from Ukraine. It took like a year and a half, but they gave me a place, and at the end I had my degree in my hands, so it was fine. So I started Imperial, and we were given three, so across the year you get three projects to work on, and they were hands-on, as opposed to just being taught or theoretical. It was experimental. So in my first semester, the first 3 months of the course, I was in the lab of Dr. Kambiz Alevian. He also happened to be from Iran, and he was really well versed in his topic. He came from Yale University in the States to teach and research at Imperial, and he had his own startup at Imperial, where he studied the cellular energetics of cancer and aging. So he was focused on the energy aspect of cancer cells and aging in general. Really high tech. I mean, he developed a device that could read the membrane potential of mitochondria of brain cancer cells, glioblastoma cells. So for 3 months in his lab, I learned how to grow cells, cell culture, and these are cancer cells of the brain. And we got to genetically knock out a gene. Knocking out means basically getting rid of a gene to study its absence. And then in the absence, we could see, okay, how the energy profile of the cells are different. So these cells were from real patients from different grades of cancer cells. And I remember that these cells came from a storage room that was in liquid nitrogen. So in that room, there were these huge chambers full of liquid nitrogen. I remember Dr. Alevian would open these chambers and pull out a big cartridge of these pipettes, full of pipettes with patient information and the grade of their cancer. So these cells were donated from the deceased patients. So yeah, we learned a lot of techniques, and I became quite good at it. And I'm really glad that I went to Imperial to do this experimental neuroscience. I didn't know neuroscience meant everything to do with neurons, not just like studying the neurons, but the cancer, the disease of the brain, mental health, altered states of consciousness. You know, Imperial College is the one of the only universities in the UK that has a dedicated psychedelic research center, which really attracted me as well, because what that means, they are pushing the boundaries of what we think about ourselves as human beings. And for me, that was like excellent, because this was my topic, the topic of consciousness. And I thought, what better place than Imperial? So I got really excited. I emailed every single professor in the department. I told them about my passions. I told them about the scientists that I follow, the latest theories in consciousness, and what my experience was, and what I want to do, what is my research proposal, and what, so on and so forth. And I remember Dr. Scott, Gregory Scott, he gave me a chance to present my theories to him. And so I did. But for some reason, he didn't choose to, collaborate on that. So, and I said, fine. Because, universities have funding, and there are lots of momentum in which direction they want to go. So I said, fine, I'll do this master and see what happens, right? But again, in the middle of my master, another challenge came up, and which I will probably talk later on within my family. So I had to drop out. So I drop out and I start working full time, and I even started a business now. So in my other channel, I have a business as a handyman. So I go and fix things. Although I'm not making lots of profit at the moment, but I like to be my own boss, as they say. So, and being hands-on has always been something that I did. Even in Iran, when I was in secondary school, like as a 13-year-old, I used to weld broken chairs in the school. So you can tell how hands-on I was. What else? Okay, so now that I've dropped out of Imperial College, I realized that university at this stage of my life is not serving the purpose I wanted to serve, which is to talk about consciousness. So I took it upon myself to come directly to the world and talk about this topic of consciousness. And this way I can share my knowledge and background and my experiences. I think I have a lot to share, and so in the coming videos I'll be sharing to you what happened that led to what event happened that led to my choice of pursuing this path of consciousness. Okay, it's been this has been a really long video, but the next video is going to be much more to the point, but I thought to have this friendly chat to put it there, and we'll continue on more specific subjects down the line. Thank you so much for listening.